Terrell County, Texas, the sheriff. We're talking all things southern border. What is our title today? What's really happening at the southern border? Or I should say our southern border. As when we left, we were talking about how the overload of work that we have to do, and the federal government, as you stated, from the federal level, it takes so much more to get things done. From a state and local level, you have more of an opportunity because there's less loopholes to jump through. Same type of paperwork, but less loopholes that you have to jump to. Still making apprehensions, still getting those convictions. But I had spoke about, as we left out, how you stated you had a great district attorney. That means a lot. We see what's going on in New York. How in the world can police do their jobs, especially in New York? You have a liberal, DA Alvin Braggs, who is there letting criminals go, decreasing felonies to misdemeanors, but however, going out there, former city president for campaign finance funds. I don't get it, but we know what it is. It's all the left agenda. I want to say this because, as I talked about earlier, Sheriff, the Biden administration is feeding us BS. The media is feeding us BS. But you know what is very ironic about all this? They're allowing our southern border to be unprotected, like you know all too well, like what we're talking about. It's a huge drug epidemic that is going on in our country that are killing not only civilians, but it's also killing innocent officers who come in contact with this stuff. It's potent, it's dangerous. And when our drug cartels smuggling this in, I know you apprehended and were able to confiscate lots of it, I'm sure, and other drug that we wouldn't even want to even bodies. But yeah, this is what's very ironic, Sheriff, and I'm going to shut up and digress. They talk about all these things, how they're protecting the border, doing all these things, which they know that they're really not. Imagine if President Trump was the one who canceled Title II, who said, come one, come all into our country on the southern. You know how that article would read, something like this. President Trump releases and opens the gates to all illegal immigrants. What happens to the protection of America? That's what they'll be spouting, right? They would say he has a sworn duty to uphold, to protect the America. He's letting them come in by the droves, these migrants who are killers and thieves and robbers, all that stuff. They would just keep going. But the most part about all they would say, they would say, Sheriff, it's time to impeach him. Let's go for articles of impeachment once again. That's what it would be. I haven't heard any of this from the left as they allow Biden to do this. And you said so great. No, it's not really Biden. He's being told what to say. He's the puppet master, right? Or he's the one that's being the puppet, and there's a master who's just pulling his strings. We understand all that. But at the end of the day, Sheriff, what I do know to be true is that we have got to find some type of solidarity to get this border under control. Like you stated, it's going to be this way years and years to come. And I hate whoever will be the next president. I don't hate them. I'm saying I hate the amount of work and efforts it's going to take for them to try to get this border under control, Sheriff. I'm going to let you have the floor again. And I just needed to say that because it's very important that we don't forget that if the shoes were on the other foot, different type of rhetoric, right? But because they have who they wanted, they're praising him. And I even heard it as far as that he's doing a great, well, his press secretary said it. Kareem Jean-Pierre, she said, the president's doing a great job with the border crisis. He's handling it as well as any other president can handle. He's been given of plans trying to throw shade upon Donald Trump. But go ahead, Sheriff. I digress.
No, that's couldn't be further from the truth. And again, I'm the first to say this, regardless if Democrat or Republicans, they haven't fixed this problem yet. It's going to take them both coming together. Even in my own state of Texas, our congressional representatives, all but one, came together with a plan, and it was put forth by Chip Roy. HR, was it 25 or 29? I forget now. It's been a while since I've talked about it, but I've talked about it on several of my interviews. And it was to deal with those who are looking to come into our country through political asylum and make false claims. And what he said in his bill, HR 29, was either that we keep them out of our country, or if we're going to allow them in our country, we keep them incarcerated until they've seen their asylum officer to determine whether or not they will receive asylum. All of our Texas representatives, other than one, came on board with it. It was happened to be my congressional representative, Tony Gonzalez. He talked border security on his reelection, and then when it came time, he wouldn't vote for it. He threw a bunch of nonsense as far as why it was bad. It made no sense, and he came up with his own border security bill that was 13 pages. Chip Roy's was 2, Tony Gonzalez's was 13, and it was nothing but fluff. And I can say that because, again, I was a 26-year Border Patrol agent. It talked about Operation Stone Garden. It talked about metrics of border security, technology. It talked about employee retention. I mean, this is stuff that we already do. It was just fluff. But with that being said, it's going to take both sides working together. And you mentioned the left. So, right, like when we talk about border security, and when the right says we need to secure a border, and the left says no, that the border is secure. They say that fentanyl only comes at the port of entry. Well, they forget the port of entry is part of that border security plan. It's in between the ports and the ports, and we are seeing the largest portions of fentanyl coming through the port of entry. But that's a lack of border security. We're still having seizures of fentanyl in between the ports of entry. So again, you're right. They're gonna direct that conversation any way they want to make it look bad. And it's time to put down the bull crap. Let's work together. Let's secure a border, and let's have some immigration reform. Because you're right. I believe in legal immigration. America, we want laborers to come here. We want cheaper labor because there's jobs that Americans are unwilling to do. And with that said, here in the area that I'm responsible for, we catch a lot of people from the state of Guerrero. That's down Acapulco, Guerrero, and they're all going to a certain location in California, Santa Maria, to pick strawberries and other produce. So again, that shows we have the appetite for cheap labor. Well, we've got to put some processes in place. We've got to get away from each presidential administration, regardless if they're Republican or Democrat. We got to get away from policy change, and we got to change our laws. Again, I articulated very well from President Clinton to Bush to Obama to Trump. They all did good things for the border. They didn't fix it, but they all did a progressive buildup. And then what Trump finalized it with, it was safer and more secure than it had ever been. And in 2 years, we've seen a complete destruction of what all those previous years and administrations had put forth to make our borders what they were.
It's like it never happened. And tons of, like I talked about on the last segment before I break, tons of efforts, tons of revenue, money-wise, have went into this border, protecting, sealing up the border. And yet we had a president who's we don't need to continue this. And you hit on the nail, because it's very important that we understand. And I say this, set on the campaign trail, being enforcement, no matter what agency you serve in, from the local, state, to federal level, we all have a mindset. And the mindset is this: it doesn't matter about if you're Republican or Democrat. It does not matter. What's matter is who's has the mindset to have the people's best interests, and the best interest other people is protecting and serving them. That's all that matters. That's all we care about. From the illegal immigrant, we don't care. We want to protect them, but we'll do our job as you all on at the border and getting them back to where they should be. Because at the end of the day, they came over illegally, and until they do it right, I'm not for it. And I just think it's wrong. Go ahead, Sheriff.
Yeah, no, I was going to mention again, and you spurred two thoughts in my mind. And when I was in the Border Patrol, we had some citizens in Terrell County that they're good people, but they're sovereign citizens. They don't recognize the authority of the federal government or the state government, and we had some run-ins with them, unfortunately. And they're still American citizens, and I'm still to look after their rights, regardless if they agree with my job or not. And same as the sheriff, there's some people that at times may not see eye to eye with the way I'm enforcing the law here. Meaning, we take care of our community first and foremost, but the major thing we're dealing with is cross-border activity. But again, they're still residents of this county, and they're still under my purview to make sure they're safe and they're treated fairly. So you're right. Regardless if we don't look at red or blue when we're in law enforcement. We look at a human being. And same thing with people crossing our border. And I don't know if I know I talked about the levels of activity. Historically, we'd have one death a year in our area, at least one that we would find, unfortunately. And any death is bad. We don't want to see anybody die. 2 years ago, we had 19 deceased. And then last year, when I first took over as sheriff, we had our first one on the day I was sworn in May 17th. And we had a total from May 17th, a total of 17 deaths. Of those 17, I put 15 in body bags myself. And again, they're human beings. You don't want to have to do that. It's something that, not that it's, seeing the death isn't bad, but to know that they're humans, they're somebody's brother, sister, child, father. They're still humans. So, we've got to bring that back around to that point you made, regardless of what country they're from, regardless of what political affiliation they may have. Not talking about illegal aliens, but those who we serve in our communities. We're still going to do what's right by all.
And we appreciate the job y'all are doing, because at the end of the day, not many people can do this particular job. Again, the danger, I always say that. People say law enforcement's job, and I say absolutely. I break down some of the areas in law enforcement where it's more dangerous than ever, and Border Patrol is number one on my list, because from the federal side, because of what y'all have to deal with, the terrain, and a lot of y'all work is done at night, detection and things like that. And these cartels, these coyotes, they're out to, as we say, shed blood, and it's their lives over yours, and they're trying to make it illegal into our country. And you have wonderful people yourself protecting and serving the border who are brutally murdered at the hands of these people, all allegedly wanting a piece of the American dream, as I said, American pie. But you mentioned something earlier, and I talk about this too, to my Black Americans, white Americans as well, and Hispanic Americans, whoever wants to listen. At the end of the day, yes, we need people from the migrant communities of these countries like Mexico and El Salvador, and places like that, Guatemala, to come and work on. I live in a agriculture county, Johnson County. We're the home of pigs, soybeans. We need these folks to and be migrant workers. And I'm not trying to make less or make it's simple. As a Black man, I can go out right now, probably give a Black person right now. I'm talking about a Black person. Say, I'll give you $100,000 right now if you work on a farm for about 6 months out of the year. And they're going to tell me, they're going to say, you lost your mind. The first thing they're going to reflect, I'm headed, is slavery, which they part of. But that's what they cotton. Now, remember, I haven't mentioned anything about cotton picking. But what I'm glad to say that we're not going to do that job. And I'm going to be honest with you, as a man of my status or whoever I'm supposed to be or probably want to be, I don't see myself getting on a farm and picking soybeans or tilling tobacco. It's just not something that I want to do.
Antoine, no, if you told me 6 months for $100,000, I'm coming. I'm serious.
I'll tell you, listen, I probably would take.
No, I was gonna say something you mentioned too. The cartels and the coyotes, and they're also called polleros, the smugglers. They're the most ruthless people on the face of the earth. They don't care about us, the law enforcement. They don't care about the rule of law. Again, that's why we're still the greatest country in the world, because we're ruled by rule of law. But also, they don't care about their same, what we in Spanish is called a paisano, someone who's from their own country, their fellow countrymen. They don't care about those people they're smuggling. All they're doing it for is the dollar. They're doing it for the dollar. That's why we don't see as much marijuana. Well, one reason we don't see as much marijuana being smuggled across the border like we used to is because it's being grown in America now. So many states have legalized it. But also, there is so much more money in smuggling of people than there is of some of those other dangerous drugs. When people are paying $10,000, $15,000 to be smuggled across our border, from Mexico to Central America to South America, and then you look at those countries, China. I think the last amount I'd heard was somewhere up around $80,000 to be smuggled into the United States. So why would you want to smuggle in drugs when you can smuggle in people? But they don't care about the people. And again, they're human beings, so they're ruthless.
They don't care about the people. I recall a couple of years, and I want to segue to that a little bit. Talking about human trafficking, smuggling. I recall, Sheriff, I don't remember what state it was. I felt like it was either Arizona or Texas, where they found the trailer loaded with human bodies. All of them were dead, and of course the driver escaped. Was that Texas, or was that in Arizona?
It was Texas, and it was, and that's happened so many times before. In the more recent past, we had it in a rail car, because the Union Pacific Railroad that goes from L.A. all the way down to Houston traverses the border, parallels the border. I'm sorry, and they'll look to get in different containers, and then they get suffocated. So yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was Texas.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all. I wanted to get your opinion on it. And the thing about it is, I up for these people because, listen, I always say, and you mentioned we're God-fearing Christians, we're God-first people. I thank God every day that I was born here in America. I didn't have to be smuggled into the country inside of a shipping container dream. I was born here, and yet I have to talk about it. Many Americans, our younger generation, of course, who have been indoctrinated at the school level, are saying, and our black people and white people too, are saying that we're systemically racist in this country, and that we to thrive as black people. 40 acres and a mule in California, just dumb things. In California was not even a state where slavery took place, but they saying that America is still systemically racist. They can't get up. However, Sheriff, we have people dying by way of drowning the Rio Grande, and you know all about that, by way of smuggling and suffocating in trucks and vehicles and tanks and box trucks or whatever it is, cargo trucks, to get over to this great country we call America. There is a shift, and there has to be, if you're really thinking, take a step back and stay quiet for a moment and say something's not right. Why is it that some people are saying that we're systemically racist, but yet here we have people still flooding our country trying to get over here? And then the people that actually, sometimes you see it, some of the greatest, and I'm not trying to make jokes or sound funny, some of the greatest food comes out by way of a Mexican restaurant, right, that sells authentic tacos, right? These people we know probably don't have a green card, but guess what? They came to America. Not all of them, some crimes, of course, but the majority of them come to try to better their lives. They start businesses here in America. Here in North Carolina, I can name multiple of different Hispanic grocery shops that they have created that Americans shop at. I can't, unfortunately, name one black shop, supermarket where black owned and where you can come and buy products there. Even the Oriental have their stores, the international stores. You can get all these products. Even the Middle Eastern culture has theirs, but yet people that were born here in America. I've even seen Hispanic banks. People that were born here, my black people, who are the ones that are saying America's racist, don't have much to show from it, other than that we are the highest paid players in the sports world, basketball, football. Yes, we're good at that. Great, highest paid in the, I wouldn't say highest paid, but great in the Hollywood actor or actresses. But yet, people like average day people are saying, "Oh, I'm being held down." But these are the people that said they've been held down, but yet every day they get to go to college, Sheriff. So I'm on my tantrum, but I had to break that down because that's very important to see that. And I think of it as Americans who's thinking that way or want to think that way. If you take a step back and listen to what Sheriff and I are saying, the people are dying to get over to this country. Wouldn't you think that it has to be some false rhetoric from somewhere? Somebody's lying. Even the people that on the border who's saying these people are dying, or the people that on the left that are saying the country is systemically racist. But both of them are not right. Sheriff, I want to ask. Go right ahead.
You made a statement that I always say, and I didn't make today, that we are blessed to be born in this country. Had I been born somewhere else, I would be doing the same thing. And again, I told you how I was raised here by my grandmother in a border community that's predominantly Hispanic, but we just weren't raised that way. I mean, we were all the same. It's we weren't raised that way, and I hope we can get those days behind us. People that continue to use that rhetoric, and I'm just blessed, and I want to bless us. My kids got to the age where they're out of the home, they're in college, or they're serving in the military, and it's like, man, what's next? For me, and I have to remind myself, if I can just wake up each day, instead of trying to think about myself, but how do I bless somebody else? If the whole world would wake up and think, let's just bless somebody else, God, we'd be such a better place.
It's very profound. I totally agree. And I think if we get back to that, we can do something to better our next generation. Sheriff, I want to say this. When you look at the fact of our border, what we have going on at the border, where do you see us going from here as of today, as it pertains to all these illegal immigrants? Because they're still coming in daily, right? Is that the case?
Oh yes. And something I know we didn't talk. So, of course, after Title 42 went away, there wasn't that big, huge rush on the day that the Title 42 expired, but we had seen a significant increase weeks before. I mean, we were having, we were catching 40, 50, 60,000. It was just, that was the big rush before. But since then, the week after Title 42, there was 28,000 apprehensions. And actually, let me back up. We didn't see that big rush of people. The administration took a victory lap and said, see, it wasn't so bad. Well, we had seen all those people cross before, but it was the week after, it was still 28,000 apprehensions. So if you do the math, 28,000 times 52, that's still 1.4 million and some change. So the border still needs attention. It still needs work. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see anything change until we have that change in administration. But I can tell you, here in the state of Texas, we have a governor that's going to continue to be in office. He's going to continue to fight for those resources along our border. He's going to continue to spend billions. And they just funded another, I think it was $4 billion for border security this next legislative session. But with that being said, the governor also put a new position in the state of Texas, a position he calls the border czar, who's in charge of the border. And that's a former Border Patrol agent friend of mine, Michael Banks. It's great that he put a Border Patrol agent in that position. It needs to be a Border Patrol agent. Texas is looking at creating its own Border Patrol. And even if we get a new administration in, and if President Trump comes back and we get back to the way the border is, we're still going to need additional assistance, because there's just not enough Border Patrol agents out there. You can have all the technology, you can have all the fence. It still takes a person, as I mentioned, with a badge on to go out and make that apprehension. So here in Texas, we've got a governor that's going to continue to protect our border and fill the gaps that the federal government has left. And when I say the federal government, that's not on the backs of Border Patrol agents or CBP officers. They continue to do what they can do. They continue to get out there daily and protect our border and protect our communities and make those apprehensions. They just need additional resources.
I'll tell you what, when you look at that, you said something, I'm sitting there shaking my head. It is crazy that from the state level, you all have to spend that amount of money that could be used for other resources. And you have to admit, in fact, the federal government should be doing this. Why is the governor having to ask for more funding to help this border crisis? He's even going to start a Border Patrol agency. That's crazy when we have the federal government where you worked, United States Border Patrol, who's in charge of both the southern and the northern border. And yet y'all have to spend money that's allocated for other reasons to put into the systems to help protect the border, because the current administration does not want to do it. That is just, I don't even know where to start with that. I cannot, first time I heard that is the most craziest thing.
Well, and I spent 8 years on our school board here. Four of those 8 years, I was president of our school board. And I'll be the first to tell you, wow. Man, I'd much rather see that billion or billions of dollars being spent on education. But being a Border Patrol agent, being a sheriff, I'm grateful for what Governor Abbott has done on our border. And I'll tell you, in Texas, Republicans and Democrats alike have come in and put legislation forward to approve the funding that goes into our border and to continue to develop laws that will protect our border and our communities. And another point I want to make, and that I made in a recent interview, is, man, you know, how can you live in the United States of America and be afraid to go out into your ranch or your yard. All along the border, we have people that are afraid because of just the
Wow.
sheer amount of people that are crossing. And again, the vast majority may be people without a criminal history or record. Yes, they're still breaking the law, but you still have that criminal element that are crossing and the people that are desperate. So how can you live in America and be afraid to go out on your own property?
Something that you built, and now you're afraid because the illegal intrusions are happening, and I'm sure they're using their property as hideaways and all types of stuff.
Yep.
And God forbid if you protect your livestock, your home, your family, your ranch by use of force, whatever that may be. I'm going to leave it there. But I understand. I can only imagine what type of trouble or penalties that they were trying to impose upon those people are allowed or should be allowed to protect property and persons. It's unbelievable, Sheriff. I tell you, y'all have an uphill battle. Y'all are fighting very strong, and we are supporting you as much as we can from North Carolina and other surrounding states. I say to you that it is very important that the teams to get out. I want to do another show at some point down the road to see where we're at with this border crisis deal. But you keep working, and you're doing a great job until you're deputy chief. And you are looking for a sheriff deputy at this point, aren't you, Sheriff? Where could they apply for that position if it's out yet?
Yes, yes. So, and let me tell you one last point, and then I'll give you that information. But hey,
Sure.
you know, we just deal with that initial crossing, that initial incursion when they cross your border. But they're not staying along the border. They're going to North Carolina, they're going to South Carolina, they're going to Iowa, Kansas, Virginia, you name it. They're not staying here. And even you touched on something earlier. You know, you talk about Texas busing people out of the state. That's costing more money. But it may have something that been started as a political ploy. But I tell you, I support it because again, they're not going to stay here. Let's get them out of our state. Let's get them to where they want to go, and then let's let that state start, paying for those needs that they may have. But with that being said, yes, we do have some deputy position as well as dispatch jailer position. You can go on our Facebook at Terrell County Sheriff's Office. That's 2 R's and 2 L's, Terrell County. Or you can also go look at my personal Facebook and Instagram, Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland or Thaddeus for Texas. I have both Instagram and Facebook pages. And I've even launched a website for my Explorator campaign for the 23rd Congressional District here in Texas. It's ThaddeusForTexas.com.
I got it. So now you're going to be seeking the office of what is this, Congress? Is that what I'm looking at? The state Congress? Is that what you're going for?
No, sir. It's U.S. Congress. It's a representative. It's the 23rd Congressional District here in Texas. It's the largest congressional district. It makes up 800 miles of the Mexico-U.S. border. But with that said, it's just an exploratory committee at this time. Texas has a law. It's called Resign to Run. So if and when I decide to make an announcement that I'm going to run, I'll have to resign as sheriff, and I'm not ready to do that yet. We still have work to be done. So again, that's where we're at right now.
I look forward to the Big Red helping you. This is going to be great news. I'm looking forward to sharing this with the CEO himself, Al. We can help you out, and I know that we can have a victory. That's very interesting because, in some states they don't have that, but I do know here in North Carolina, once you vacate your office, usually you'll finish out that term, of course, and you seek another level of office or another seat somewhere in a total different makeup of what you're serving in. If you lose that particular election, of course, if you still have term time left, you can go ahead and reapply or run again. So that's where you have to resign from that particular one. So I like the way that you plan it all out, exploratory for right now. I think we can change that from that status to a full-fledged, you're ready to release and go ahead and do your main launch. We are going to be there to help. It's been a great time having you on the show. I've enjoyed all things southern border and before we leave, as the time runs out here, as it pertains to the Listen Only podcast, we're still here live, going strong on our YouTube and Facebook platform. But I want to say to you, it is a pleasure meeting you. And of course, at some point, I hope to meet you in person. We are now officially brothers and friends. And I will just continue to pray for you and the men and women that serve at the United States Border Patrol level, the Customs, and everybody that in our Homeland Security, but also for sheriffs like yourself who is doing this work without a lot of help from the federal government, other sheriffs like you. And I want to continue this great conversation. If you have other friends that would like to come and shed light on what's going on at that border, we can do that. And we don't have to talk about just the border. We can talk about other things centered around what you do as a local sheriff. Because I can tell you it's much different than how we do it in North Carolina, because y'all are dealing with the real deal. Y'all are sheriffs. Okay? You get to wear the hat, boots, and all. Like I said, I told you off air, I'm a cowboy boot wearing man. I told a gentleman the other day when I was in the Western store, young guy, he laughed at me. He says, man, how about some? I said, whoa, you go far now. I said, I'm your actor here in this Wild Wild West society, okay? I'm more than just a pretty boy who likes to put on the jeans and put the wonderful cowboy boots on. I got some lizard print the other day, and I love them. But I said, the cowboy hat, I haven't made it to that way yet. Neither have I made it to the Wranglers. He says, no, I understand, man. I like boots, too. I just strictly wear the boots. I said, yeah, maybe one day. But I don't want to go in and fake the funk totally. So that's what we're doing from the level of the cowboy boots. And I love them. They're very comfortable. It's just a beautiful thing. But Sheriff, I don't want to take your time. We had some technical difficulties on our end that we're able to work through, a couple different breaks, but we made it happen. And I'm glad that you were able to weather the storm with me and stick around and shed light. And you are, again, a wealth of information. And before I end, I want to yield the floor back to you and allow you to close this great segment. And I'll come back and do my outro, and then we'll get out of here. The floor is yours once again, Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland.
Antoine, again, just thank you for having me. Thank you for all the kind words. Man, I offer, if you ever come out to West Texas, I'll take you out on the border, show you some of the river down here. It's beautiful. But again, God bless you. Thank you for getting the word out. And anything I can do for you, just holler and let me know, and I'll be in touch.
I'm going to take you up on that offer for sure. I'm going to come. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, I love Texas. It's a wonderful place. I've had the opportunity to go to Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and where else have I been? I don't think I've been to San Antonio, but I'm coming to Terrell County to hang out with Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland. And as we get ready to wrap up, again, we want to remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, who lost their lives, serving in our United States Armed Forces, and to the men and women who are still alive and breathing, like Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland in the United States Air Force. We thank you for serving. We thank you to your family as well. We thank your family, your wife, for and your mom and dad, well, your mother. I know your grandparents raised you, but for everybody who made up, you had to have a mother to be born. So we even give credit wherever she may be. God rest her soul. If she's not with us, or if she's with us, God bless her. To everybody, to your whole family, what I'm to say is this: we appreciate your family for allowing you to serve, and your dad telling you to go and serve the Air Force. And so we appreciate it. We thank Dad for his service to law enforcement, and to everybody, your grandpa for his service to law enforcement. We appreciate it. And my prayer is that God will keep you safe. And as we end, I want to say this, as I always say: reach one and teach one. Today's show entitled, okay, All Things the Southern Border. We said, what is really happening on our southern border? You heard it from Sheriff Thaddeus Clark, who's down at the border. And I want to leave you with this again. Happy Memorial Day. Enjoy it. Take time to love on your families. And My uncle, two of my uncles actually served, I didn't mention this, Sheriff, in our United States Armed Forces. One was in Special Forces in the Army, another one was a Marine. And then my mom's only sister, who is retired, all parties have retired. One uncle is deceased, the other one now, who also is a retired police officer. He's still with us. And to my mother's sister, who served in the United States Army as well. She retired as a high-ranking official. So I have some folks in my family, and we appreciate that. We take time to love on them as well. And until we meet again, I always like to say this, Sheriff, at the end of the show, please, God, continue, and it's very befitting in this moment, to bless and keep a woman that is serving in the United States Armed Forces. God, please continue to bless the men and women who are serving in blue. That is our law enforcement community. And until we have an opportunity to share and talk again, we'll see you very soon. And remember, you are listening to Real Talk. And I am your host, Officer Antoine Thomas. And you have heard from Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland. Again, we'll see you